Welcome to This Week in Baseball Player Profiles as we profile Matt Baty of 316 Baseball and KU Alumni. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks, Don.
I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day for coming today. Let's get started here. Playing baseball, who inspired you to play baseball growing up?
I would say, you're going to hear a consistent answer from me today is my big brother. My big brother inspired me. I had an opportunity to practice with him growing up. He was 3 years older than me, so I got to see him at a high level and how fun it was. But the coaches around him is who really inspired me. I had an opportunity when my parents would drop off my brother for practice. Coaches would grab me and say, "Hey, you're practicing today," which always leads me to my philosophy. My little brother philosophy for our organization is little brothers, if you're at practice, you come and work out with your big brother, because that was me. I got better because the coaches like Mark Standiford, Mike Jones, Kelly Zane, that coached my brother, that would grab me and throw me into the Wolves and let practice. And then my major league player that I followed and admired was Cal Ripken Jr. He was or is the Iron Man, and I tried to mimic his style, his play. Obviously, I wasn't 6'5", 6'6", but the tenacity that he played with and the drive that he played with, inspired me.
Okay. You went to Maize High School. Your competition that you had back then was pretty tough. How would you compare it to now?
I was fortunate enough to play for Rocky Helm and Kelly Zane at Maize, and was fortunate to play all 4 years and start on varsity as a freshman. I had great leadership, senior leadership, and guys like Ryan Jacoboff that took me under their wings. And I was thrown to the Wolves as a freshman. We had an injury, so I got thrown in early on, and so there was talent there already at Maize, and you throw in a guy like Rocky and the talent on the west side of Wichita, and Sluggers was a big part of that. Sluggers Baseball Academy was a huge part. And what I remember the most is, those classes, whether we were freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, those classes stayed together. We played with each other in the summer. So all the freshmen played together, all the sophomores played together. Whether it was in Sluggers Academy or another organization or another team, the Moroscos, and they played together with the Riffles, and so we had a very core nucleus of guys in classes that played together.
Right.
And we don't always get that now. The best players back then played with each other in the summer. We don't always get that. It's kind of a watered down product now in the city of Wichita, and I would say in the entire Midwest.
Right. So after Maize, you went on to KU. Was that your first choice, KU?
Being a Wichita kid, Wichita native, obviously Wichita State was in my blood. I grew up watching the Beanball Wars between Oklahoma State and Wichita State. Todd and Darren Dreifert were some of my favorite players, and we're fortunate to work with Mr. Dreifert now, Coach Dreifert, in our organization. And so I wanted to be a shocker, just like most kids growing up. And so it came down really for me, it was Wichita State or KU. Watched my brother go through the process of recruiting, and he chose KU over Wichita State, so it was my turn. I went to a Big 12 or Big 8 at that time, back in 1993, Big 12 tournament with my dad at Old Kemper Arena, and I told my dad, I'm gonna be a Jayhawk someday. I thought I was gonna be a basketball player at 5'10", but it ended up being a baseball player, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I had an opportunity to go play as a freshman and play with my brother, and it was the best decision of my life.
So the experience that you had at KU, how did that go overall? Knowing that you had your brother there to lean on, some kids don't have that.
Yeah.
What do you have to?
No, it was a great experience. For me, I grew up quick, because it helped that I had a brother there that been there, done that, and went through the whole, the whole freshman, saga and what goes on with that of growing up. I remember my parents dropping me off at the Jayhawk Towers My brother was actually not in town yet. He was coming back from, I believe, the Cape, and my parents dropped me off. And I remember when they left, after all the tears and everything, I remember after they left, I felt that loneliness that everybody feels, and oh wow, I got to grow up now. And so so that was a big part of it, you know, and that was part of the reason why I chose to go 2.5 hours up the road, is to grow up. And so I did that, had a brother to help guide the way, but you know, it was an unbelievable experience. I mean, the University of Kansas is one of the finest institutions in the United States, but the sports side of it, I had an opportunity to go and play as a freshman, and that's what I was looking for. I knew my back could play. I knew the style of player that I was could play at Kansas, but you know, I was fortunate enough to get thrown into the wolves, and again, I got thrown into the wolves over an injury, and started off with my first collegiate start was at catcher, and I never caught before in my life. You know, and through my 4 years, I was a second baseman for my first 2 years, and then or 4 years, and then moved out to center field, and never played a lick of outfield all my life. And so I knew going to Kansas, I had an opportunity to go play, and I knew if I could go play, I could go showcase my abilities, and had an opportunity to perform at a high level, at the all Big 12 level, and you know, and win a Big 12 championship along the way.
That's pretty cool. So during that time you were there with your brother, who's better, you and your brother?
You know, we get asked that a lot. You know, my brother obviously will tell you that he's better than me, and depending on whom I'm around, I'll jab at him. But you know, my brother, you know, he's a different style player. He's 6'5". Right. He was the 3-hole, which was really cool. My first 2 years with him playing first base, I was the second baseman. So you had the Batys in the lineup, which was really cool until you went to Texas A&M and you heard that I was, you know, the milkman's son, but and some of the jabs that I would get there in Texas Tech. But you know, I was a leadoff guy. I was the fast guy. I was. I'm going to put pressure on you. My brother's going to hit the double home run. I hit 5 home runs in my career. He probably hit 30 home runs in his career. So, you know, we were completely two different baseball players. But if you're going to ask me, I would certainly say my brother is my favorite baseball player, and one of the, not only better than me, but one of the best baseball players ever to come through the University of Kansas.
Right. So what do you think right now you would say is the biggest difference between players now, especially in high school, or even youth, when you were growing up to now?
Well, I think the big difference is what are kids doing today outside of school? You know, I joke around, but you know, when I was in school, we didn't have I remember driving in the back of the station wagon and up in the window and waving at the police officer behind us, not wearing a seatbelt, not any of that. And I'm not jabbing on our rules or our laws or what parents do these days, but it's a different world. I was outside every night. I didn't go to bed till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I didn't go inside until 9 o'clock at night. We were outside playing ball, playing tackle football in the street. We were playing rugby. We were doing a lot of things that these kids aren't doing these days. And I speak from experience because my kids are you know, 11 years old and 7 years old. My twins are 11 and my 7-year-old. And they don't do that. They want to go in and play video games and all that. I grew up every day of the summer going to Park City and going to see my friends. My parents would drop me off and we'd head over to McLean and we'd play baseball backwards on the field. We did that every day of the summer. And so I learned to play and compete with older kids. I learned to fight for what I wanted. I learned to get in fist fights to fight for what I wanted. I learned to, you know, with my older brother, you know, and so, you know, it's just a different world that we live in. You know, right now, like, I'm worried about, my wife is worried about my kids riding their bike in the street without their helmet on. I remember walking across Central growing up and being okay, you know. I could run the entire neighborhood. Now it's like I got GPS on my kids, and I got to
Right.
figure out where the heck they're at all the time. So it's a different time.
Do you ever think we have such a rich heritage here in Wichita for baseball? And it's kind of, in my opinion, found a little lull. Do you think we can get back to that?
Oh, I think so. You know, it's a continuous effort. You know, we have a lot of great baseball minds in this town, and you're right. The heritage is very strong, and some of that heritage is now coming into the coaching ranks, which is exciting. I think it starts at the youth side. I think it starts at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. I think that's where the foundation's got to start. We have to change the tide. We used to produce 7 or 8 Division I kids a year, especially out of the Wichita Sluggers organization. We haven't produced a true Division I talent in a while in this market. So why is that? Is it because kids just aren't as good? Yeah, obviously. Are they working as hard? Do they know what it takes? What's their influences? Are kids just specializing in sports now, not playing multi-sports like we used to, where we became pure athletes and well-rounded athletes? I don't know, but there's something certainly missing. We don't have the velo that we used to have, like Mike Pelfrey back in the day. We don't have the guys that are running 6 foot, 6'6", 60s. We don't have that, and so it's our job as an organization. Not that D1's the means to the end, that's the end desire. But we're not producing the type of talent that we once did. And so I think with the concentrated effort of some of the things that we're trying to do in our organization, I think we'll head there. I think it's going to take some time. We got to turn the tides, and it's going to take about 3 or 4 years to get there.
Okay. And you brought up coaching, and we got a lot of excellent people coming in to coach in the area. And obviously we got some titles up here. You're one of the ones that win 2015 here, get us into the first step into NBC. And all our high school teams that have competed in NBC have all at least won one game for the last 4 or 5 years, which is pretty impressive, beating college kids. So I think you're on the right track there. We're starting to develop and get a little bit better there. Who would you say right now then, out of all the coaching, is your mentor?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, you look at us across the bottom and 316 Sluggers Elite, and then, you know, with the merger between 316 and Sluggers, which I think it was a much needed thing in our community because we were so watered down. It goes back to not the best kids were playing with each other. You know, you'd have the best 3 kids playing on this team, the best 4 kids here, and we were watered down. Now we're trying to do that. And iron sharpens iron, right? And so the best players playing together only makes them stronger. Kids playing at their own level. If I'm a AAA player, I need to play with AAA players. If I'm a single A player, I need to play with single A players because iron sharpens iron, and I need to develop at my own pace. You know, I say this all the time, and I know I'm kind of getting off, but I'm passionate about this, is if I'm a single A player playing on a AAA team and I'm batting in the 10 hole for over 3 years on the same team and I'm batting in the 10 hole, that might be the difference between 300 at-bats in 3 to 4 years. So if it's truly about development and about these kids getting reps, that single A player that's playing AAA needs to play more at their level so they can get more reps. So they can get those extra 300 at-bats, which I think that's what we're trying to do in our organization is fit the mold. But as far as my mentor goes in the coaching world, is obviously Rocky Holmes, part of our organization, was my high school coach, and I look up to him. You got guys like John Dreifert, who, I mean, he's seen more Division I talent than anybody in the world. I mean, he popped out, or his wife popped out maybe Mrs. Dreifert should be the one that she's the athlete in the family. But, you know, Golden Spikes and Darren, and Tom wasn't too bad himself. You know, so we have some great minds. We have Steve Lenhart, who is by far one of the best pitching minds in baseball. Scott Taylor, who's one of the best pitching minds in the city of Wichita. That was a pitching coach when I was in high school. He was our pitching coach for my summer teams. You know, so there's so much talent in the city of Wichita. You know, that I'm excited to work with and learn from. And so, I have several mentors. My mentor every day the guy I talk to often is Coach Price at KU. I speak to Skip often. I talk to him through situations. I talk to him about what's going on. But, we have a pretty good nucleus of academy coaches in this town. We have a good nucleus of talented coaches that we all bounce around ideas. I know I can pick up the phone and call Billy Hall today, and we're going to swap knowledge. I can learn a lot from Billy. What's great about baseball is I'm a younger guy than Billy, and I think Billy can learn some stuff from me. That's the great thing about baseball, is I'm learning something new every single day when I step out on a baseball field. And that's what excites me. I learn from guys that have been playing the game for a long time. I've learned things from guys that have just now started playing. There's so much to be learned, and that's probably why I love the game the most, is because every day is a learning experience. It's not, I've mastered this. There's no mastery in the sport of baseball. We're always working to get better.
I think that's some good advice for younger coaches too. They can always learn from others. Even older guys can learn from some guys. So you have some boys that play some baseball, pretty competitive.
Yep.
Are you going to try to coach them any differently than you were coached growing up, or?
It's funny. I probably coach a lot like my dad did to me. My dad was hard on me, and I think it's because he saw the potential that I had. And I look at my boys and I see, first of all, they're two different people, two different personalities. One is probably more athletic than the other in my boys. My daughter, thank God, I really enjoy, it's kind of my break from sports. She's really into dancing. She's into Broadway. She's into those things. And I like that stuff. And so that's kind of my breakaway from sports. And she is a tremendous talent. I think she got the singing voice from me, but she's talented, and so she's fun. She's coming in her own, and so she's fun. And her twin brother Brighton is, just a good athlete, a solid baseball player, solid basketball, football player. But I'm hard on him, and I'm hard on him because he can take it. He's one of those kids that looks at me in the eye, shakes his head, and then does it. My other one, I can't be as hard on. I can't be like my dad was with me, because he'll cave. And so what's great about the coaches in our organization, we kind of figured that out, is I can be really hard on Brighton, and I don't need another coach really being hard on him. They can, and he's going to respond well, but I can get into his teeth a little bit. My other one, I need somebody else to, because he's gonna go home and tell mom, and I'm going to be in the doghouse. And so, but my wife is just as hard as I am on my oldest one too, because there is a tremendous upside there. But he responds well to it. If he didn't respond well to it, then yeah. But he's eager to learn. He's out here and doing lessons. And unfortunately, being a coach's kid, he gets stuck with, when we have 3-hour workouts and he's the first workout, he's here all night. And so he's working and he doesn't complain, and the younger son will complain a little bit. So just different personalities.
Yep. I get that. I have two myself, and they're different personalities.
No question.
You brought up the merger, and I agree with you. I think it was the best timing for us to bring the two academies together. How's that going for you right now, personally?
It's going really well. Obviously, you always have your ups and downs, and you have your heartburns, and really all that is a culture, right? So it's just like a business. When you purchase businesses and you merge them, obviously you're trying to fit two cultures together, right? And we're fortunate that 316, a lot of people don't know this, 316 was built on the foundation of Wichita Sluggers. I started 316 5 or 6 years ago, back in 2015, after being a part of Sluggers organization as a player and as a coach. And so we started 316 on the foundation that Wichita Sluggers created, what Mark Stanford created. And Mark is one of my dear mentors when we go back to mentors. And so obviously I had to go sell 316 when I went and worked for the University of Kansas as a senior associate AD there for compliance purposes. and I handed the reins over to Ryan Jones, who a stud athlete from Bishop Carroll and Wichita State, and he was coaching in the 316 ranks with me or for me at that time. And so I met with him, talked to him about taking over 316, and he did an unbelievable job.
Yes.
For 4 years of running 316 and getting and helping put that name on the map, and then obviously you at Sluggers continue to run things, and we had those great rivalries, right, between 316 and Wichita Sluggers. And so when I moved back, no longer at KU, I started sitting down with Jones, and he's got 3 beautiful daughters, and decided, we started having those conversations of what the future looks like for him. And so with that, and then at the same time, I'm having a conversation with Mark Staniford about what's his future with Sluggers. And so I sat down with both of them and said, you know what, I think now's the time. We've all been complaining that the best players aren't playing for the best teams necessarily. They were watered down. Like Wichita Sluggers might have 4 of the best players here, and 316 might have the best players, best outfielders, and Sluggers might have the best infielders. What about putting those teams together like the old days and creating the best teams,
right,
and creating the best single A team, the best double A team, the best triple A, and hopefully major teams? How can we create a development program that is needed in this town, because nobody's teaching the game of baseball at a young level, and these kids need that. And so we sat down and we put a plan together and thought, you know what, I'm the right guy to hopefully take this on. And so I purchased 316 and I purchased Sluggers and merged it together. And out of respect for both of them, we created 316 Sluggers Elite.
Okay. So you brought up the merger, everybody getting together and doing everything. What do you have now? What is your vision moving forward here, let's say in the next 3-4 years? And what do you have that the Academy offers that's going to allow that vision to occur?
Yeah, that's great. I think we have a bright future in not only Wichita, but surrounding area in the state of Kansas. We do have in my opinion, the premier clubs in Wichita. Can they get better? Yes. We can be a club to everybody. The best marketing that we can do for our organization is obviously win. Right? Number 2 is graduate kids and get them scholarships. We're doing a phenomenal job of that, and with you and with the recruiting services that you're offering, it's phenomenal. There's nobody in this market, nobody in the Midwest is doing what we're doing. So we're heading there in a really good direction. So we go back to the youth program. How can we teach these kids the game of baseball? How can they fall in love with the game of baseball? How can they get better? How can we help them develop at the pace that they're going to develop at? We've all seen the 12-year-old that is almost 6 foot, and he's so much better than everybody else, and then puberty hits, and then everybody equals out, right? How do we assist in that development process, right? How do we help that 7-year-old kid that is not good enough to play on a AAA major team, but he needs to learn the game of baseball? Why are we going to give up on an 8-year-old kid that hasn't fully developed yet? That doesn't know if he loves the game of baseball, doesn't know how good he's going to be or what his potential is. I would love to take in every kid that we possibly can in the organization. Can we be competitive doing that? Probably not. But we can be focused on who we are, and we can be focused on this is a development team, and we're trying to help this team develop into the future, when they develop and hit puberty and do those type of things. So I think our future is bright. We're going to teach the game of baseball the right way. Our programming is second to none. And I've said that for many years. Our winter workout program, if you participate in it, it is second to none. If you want 7 days of work, you get 7 days of work. It's kind of an a la carte options for our players. We have the best infield guys in Wichita. We have the best outfield guys in Wichita. We have the best pitching guys in Wichita. The best hitting guys in Wichita. The gurus that we have on the hitting side is unbelievable. So across the board, if you want to get better, we're going to give you the opportunity to get better. But we treat it like a professional setting, like a Division I college setting. We're going to provide the resources for you to be successful. What are you going to do with them, right? We're going to be here on Tuesday nights doing infield. Are you going to show up? We have a weight room. Are you going to participate in the program that Sharp Performance is putting on? Are you going to participate in the Mind Time Sports, where we work with kids on the mental side of the game? There's nobody teaching the mental side of the game of baseball. Yet we talk about all the time as coaches, is this game is 100% mental, right? And so how do you handle failure? You know, and understanding at an early age of how to handle failure. We work on that, we teach on that. And so across the board, there's no question that we provide the premier services in this market. There's great organizations in this town, don't get me wrong, and great coaches in this organization. We just happen to have the best coaches in the market, right? And we have the best services in the market, and we're excited to continue to build on that and build baseball in the city of Wichita.
Okay, that's pretty much everything in a nutshell there. I agree with you 100% on that. The Mind Time Sports to me is a big deal. I think that's great what your dad does, and I love the idea of having Sharp Performance run our strength and conditioning. I think that's great. So with all that being said, do you have any advice you can give to younger players about wanting to one day, you know, I'm not saying be Matt Baty or be Cal Ripken Jr., but wanting to play baseball and move on and play college ball?
Yeah, I think it starts with that is who do you want to be? You know, don't want to be a Matt Baty, don't want to be a Cal Ripken. You know, who are you going to be? You know, it starts with effort. You know, we talk about that all the time, and it's cliche, but you know, I pride myself on effort, right? It's I am going to outwork you, and we need to create that competitive environment. We talked about in the fall with all of our guys is we got to compete. You know, there's a great article, but a YouTube video of the Duke women's basketball coach, and she talks about, which is great, and I've never heard it this way, but it's phenomenal. So I can build parameters. Right? I can build these parameters, and I can tell you you've got to meet this time, and I can force you to work hard. But let me now line up 6 other people, and let's do the exact same thing. And was the result the same? Meaning, did you compete? So when I go to practice, you hear, oh yeah, coach, I worked hard today. Okay, did you compete today? And that's a big difference. And so I challenge kids that when we're working on drills to be better than the guy in front of you, be better than the guy behind you, be first in line in everything we do, outwork your peer. Outwork your peer. Because that's who you're going to be held accountable to. That's who the standard is going to be the peers. You know, am I better than them? Do I outwork them? Do I, out hustle them? Those type of things. Outcompete them. So that's my challenge to the youth today is, do you compete? And if you do that, you come in and you outwork everybody and outcompete them and be first in line and out hustle them, good things are going to happen to you. What's great about this game is the game will reward great behavior. If you play hard, your son was one of them. He was one of my all-time favorite baseball players. He hated playing against him and Zach, but he played the game the right way. He played hard. He was a dirtbag, is what we call him. Is when he lines up, you have to manufacture energy in the game of baseball. It's a long game. You have to manufacture that energy. You can't just walk out and then all of a sudden just be full of energy in the game of baseball. You have to manufacture it. And then when you get out there, are you going to outwork everybody? There's nothing better than saying, God, that guy's a dirtbag. That guy's a dirtbag. That was the greatest honor when I would play somebody and somebody say, man, that guy's a dirtbag. Didn't have to be the best player out there. Right. I was fortunate enough to be one of the better players in every organization I've been a part of, whether it's college or academy or whatever. It's because I was going to outwork everybody. I wasn't the most talented, but I was going to sprint. This is what I tell everybody all the time. Sprint on and off the baseball field. Start there. If you can start there, everything else is going to fall in place. When I played shortstop, my goal was to beat the third baseman in the dugout. When I played center field, my goal was to beat the middle infield into the dugout. I knew that if I didn't have to worry about anything else and I worried about that, everything else was going to take care of itself. Because that put me in a position that my mindset's going to be, I'm going to be first in the drill, I'm going to be first at weights, I'm going to be the last to leave, all these things. And so it's all about a mindset that if I can train myself to be first, if I can train myself to compete and compete with the guy next to me, and if I can beat him, then I move on down the line. And I'm going to go beat him, and we'll go beat him, and I'm going to go beat him. And the next thing you know, you build that mindset that I'm competing. Right. And that's the challenge to today's kids. And that's my advice is go compete. Right. Go sprint on and off the baseball field and watch this game reward you. Go dive on a basketball court playing defense. Take charges and watch the game reward you. It's funny how it works is if you put yourself in a good position, you have good outcome, right? Naturally. And so that's my advice.
It's excellent advice. It really is. So outside of baseball, do you have any hobbies? Do you have time?
Do I have time? Yeah, I love to golf. I love to spend time with the family. I love horseback riding when I get an opportunity to go down to my in-laws and horseback ride. I haven't done that in a while. But, so those are the hobbies. I love watching. My favorite sport to watch is watching my boys play football. And it's probably because I have no control as a coach. And it's probably one of my favorite spectator sports. I love basketball. I love the Jayhawks and I love the Shockers and I love, watching sports. I'm a huge diehard Chiefs fan. I've been through thick and thin with them from little kid of always losing the first round of the playoffs to, winning a Super Bowl last year was fun. So those are some of the things that I participate in. I love watching bowling on TV. My dad, if you know, my dad runs bowling alleys in town and West Acres Bowl. And I grew up bowling. I don't like bowling. I hate bowling, actually bowling. But I love watching bowling. So I watch it on Sundays and I'll sit there because a lot of those guys I know that I grew up watching bowling in person. And so it's fun. But family and church, I love being a part of that. So.
Okay, you and the Shockers meet in any sport. Who do you cheer on?
Rock Chalk.
Rock Chalk, okay.
Rock Chalk. I mean, it's my alma mater. I bleed crimson and blue, and I love the Shockers. I'm a big, obviously I worked at Wichita State for 3 years, and close with Greg Marshall and the basketball team, and I wish them nothing but success. But if they play, obviously I'm Rock Chalk all the way. But certainly I root for both.
So you brought up your brother as one of your favorite players, and Cal Ripken. Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite team?
I'm a Royals.
Royals.
I'm a loyalist for the market around here. So I'm a Chiefs fan, and then I'm a Royals fan. So again, going back to the Royals, have had some bad years. We're not great now, but 2015-16 they built it the right way through the farm system, which is what I'm excited about with having a future farm system of somebody. Here in Wichita, it's looking like AA now. I love that because you get to see where it's built from, which is in the farm system. And so Royals are definitely my team. Grew up a George Brett fan, just like any Royals fan. Brett Saberhagen and all those guys. So Royals are certainly my team.
Okay. So the last question. You have this squat contest going to happen here against your director of ops, Brady Hoover. Who's going to win that? And how did that come about?
Well, I'm 40 pounds overweight. Brady would probably tell you 50. Brady played for me at Wichita Sluggers when I coached here, and so when I
was on that championship team up there.
And so when I merged the two. The first phone call I made was to Brady Hoover, who was living in Topeka, and I said, hey, I'd love to bring you back home, love you to run things. And so, you know, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is competing. I like to compete. Everything I do, I'm competing. I compete with my 11-year-old. You ask him if we're out shooting baskets, he's never won against me in basketball. I won't let him win. I block his shot often. And so I compete. And so, you know, Brady's over there running his mouth about my weight and running his mouth about everything else. And so I told him, I said, I own the record at KU for squatting. Why don't we do a squatting squat off? And so he called me out and said I couldn't do it. So I said, let's go. So I will. So we are, I think it's December 23rd.
Yeah.
I invite everybody. I invite the city out over at our Harry Street facility. We're going to have a squat off. I got some work to do, but I promise you I will blow out both hamstrings just to beat him. And he knows that. And so, in fact, I think he's a little worried because I got old man strength now. But I think he's worried because in our last fall workout practice, we had a little tug of war contest. And I think it was 2 10-year-old teams or 2 9-year-old teams were going up against each other. And it was just a long, drawn-out contest, and nobody was really winning. Brady actually took the rope of one side and started yanking and started winning. So I looked at that as an opportunity to compete, naturally. And so I hopped in on the other side, and you should have seen his eyes. Old man strength kicked in. I was ready to compete, and I started yanking and pulling and obviously beating. So that's what I love about our organization, is we compete. The coaches are competing. We're trying to make ourselves better. We have hit tracks.
Right.
So we have all the coaches, Tyler Weber and Joe Roundy and my brother and Brady and Coach C. I'd like to see you out there, Tano.
No problem.
But all the trash talking that's going on right now of, hey, let's hit in hit tracks. Let's go in hit tracks and let's do a coaches league because we want to compete too.
Right.
We're reliving the glory days a little bit, but it's fun because we compete. And so we can't ask these kids to compete if we're not willing to compete too. And so it's fun, and there's a lot of trash talking, and it's all good-natured. Mm-hmm. But don't get me wrong. If I beat Brady Hoover, the whole town of Wichita's going to hear
Everybody's
about it.
going to know about it.
They're going to hear about it.
Well, Matt, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming in. That will conclude This Week in Baseball Player Profiles with Matt Baty. I want to thank our sponsors, 316 Baseball, Elite Recruiting Consultants, and Play It Again Sports. Thank you.
Thank you.
You the man.